Well, hopefully you're having a great day today. In this video, we're going to go over OSS. It's didn't move much. We're going to go over Black Sky. We were trading this morning and we got into OSS. It was really just moving from left to right. Really productive week though. We did see some movement on Big Bear this week as well as Black Sky, some space tech stocks. And if you missed early stages of the breakout, that's okay. We're going to uncover right now what's going on with AI, the space tech, and what tickers you might want to have on your radar. By the way, the extended sale for Stockmates is on its way out. So if you want lifetime access to the daily live trading sessions, Monday through Friday, every Monday through Friday at market open, it's the second link in the description. Some people are surprised, but you do get a free t-shirt shipped to you anywhere in the world, and I'll give you a call directly personally. So here's what we're going to go over for the start. We got Black Sky. Black Sky has rallied about 75% for us since our entry here. We started covering it when it was really starting to find support here at this $9 price point, and it started to make this move up into this $20 a share price. When we saw it start to make that move, we entered, we were able to catch it, and so far we see it continue this upward direction. Just in the last few days, it's continued about 30% past that resistance up into this previous resistance here at about $25 a share. Now, one thing to note about the company, and we do go through the full analysis, is to start with the market. The market they're in is growing really fast. They are in space tech, and they mix their space tech with really what is a focus on defense. Their investor relations, they kind of talk about real-time space-based intelligence that delivers on-demand high-frequency imagery, analytics, and high-frequency monitoring of the most critical and strategic locations, economic assets, and events in the world. And you can see just, tracking individual boats, tracking people. That image is maybe not as clear. Tracking the ports of entry, tracking the airports. If you have a look at their Gen 3 satellites, they recently launched them over there with Rocket Lab. So one thing to note is not only do they have the actual hardware, but they have this rapid decision-making intelligence that tracks. I mean, just take a look at it. They're down in the cars. They have this defense contracts, these different defense contracts. And the reason why is a focus on very good imagery. The images that they show on their site are super HD. I was kind of joking the other day. We're like, maybe this could recognize your face. That's how good it looks. And so, when we look at the company's growth, the news is kind of that second piece. So again, market they're in is related to not just AI and space tech, but they are in defense. So if we look at some of their contracts, it gets pretty interesting when you start to look at you got international demand there. You see them work not just with the US government, but with other companies. Here's an international contract there. Black Sky secures international contract. And I meant to go to press releases. I want to go to press releases. It's actually a lot better, just in case they had anything get added. They recently launched with Rocket Lab, and I say that because maybe those articles aren't, noteworthy if they're like Yahoo Finance, or something. I mean, Yahoo Finance has its value that it brings, but they've had some fake articles. And like one, there was a Supermicro Computer article that came out that said they were no longer working with NVIDIA. This was back in November or something. Ever since then, I've never covered articles from Yahoo Finance because I found that it was such a stock hitting article that the stock, along with other things, sold off on that news, but it was ended up being fake. So when combined with Black Sky Spectra, they have not only their Gen 3 constellations, but also their platform. Looks like they signed a multi-million-dollar defense contract there. They do have some other contracts that are underway with government customers, international government customers. There's a $100 million contract for strategic international defense sector customer for Gen 3. These are just some of the values that you place on it. So you might say, okay, well, they're a satellite space tech company. What's so special? I think it's their focus on AI. Aside from that, when we look at their revenue growth, it's growing. Their net income was down, if I'm not mistaken. So their net income still operating at a loss there. But annually, we see their revenues really start to increase with their net income shrinking. That's a really good sign. On top of that, when you look at the balance sheet, you could tell they have more assets than liabilities, and it's doing better. It's increasing. Total assets in 2024 we're at 210 million, and they're at 284 into 2025. So you see that, and then we look at the chart. We saw the breakout. What we're looking for now, again, we were looking for that support at $20. It did find support there. It's continuing up and made this 30% swing up into this $25 range. From here, we're watching that $25 range. There is this resistance level that we can watch now at this previous resistance. You got some consolidation there and a little bit of a hesitation before it broke out above it at exactly about $22 or so. So if we really zoom in, you can see that $22 price point right here was a resistance. And then today, it looks like it kind of bounced down. It pushed up to almost $25, bounced down to that $21 or $22 range, and kind of found some support. So that's the previous resistance, that $22 range. We got to watch the support there. If it holds, the next target I'd be looking for Black Sky, as we do have this long position here, is about a 14 to 15% increase up to $25.80. And from there, we just got to watch. But that's kind of where it's sitting right now. So I'm going to open up the live chat so I can see you guys. We're going to jump into a few other AI stocks, and we'll get a better understanding of really why we see the market spike big time this morning and then sell off. There was some news of defense contractors or companies related to defense that they were going to get more contracts, make more money. Now that's good, but then just in the same breath, you have this new introduction of tariffs. And so that's a conversation. More tariffs, what does that look like? It could send the market down potentially in a correction. And it looked like we got maybe not a full correction or anything like that. It was just like a big push up at market open before it sold off later on. So let me just double check, make sure that we have the live session going here, and that you guys could see me. I guess I should have done that at the beginning, but you guys could hear me as well. And go ahead and comment down below your ticker symbols that you're watching right now, which companies you're watching and why you're watching them, not just the ticker symbol. So it looks like we're here. Cool. So Adone says, I was looking at Lunar. It seems like a good opportunity, although it might grow until Q4 2025 or Q1 2026. So Adone, let's take a look. I'm gonna jump into Lunar. It's actually just below Black Sky right here. So Lunar looks like last we were looking at it, we were looking for this continuation. We said it's in between the $6 range and this $20 range. If we really go back, it's kind of consolidated. It's had some interesting moves. And if it gets back up to the resistance, looks like since then it's sold down just a little bit. Oops. Looks like it's sold down just probably about 10% or 15%, really about 10% from when we last covered it. I think that what was lacking on Lunar, we were looking for a potential recovery, and we were watching these levels. And I don't know that we had a full breakdown, but there is this previous resistance, kind of previous support right here that could act as a resistance. It was kind of consolidating around. We did see it push below the 200-day moving average recently, push below the EMA. And so we're looking for a potential recovery there on Lunar stock, maybe up into there. But before we get there, that's a 100% increase. Before we get there, let's just take a quick look at the stock. I actually don't have a very clear memory on what was going on with the stock. So let me see what that looks like. And I see NASCAR All Out says Ross Cameron made 179K pre-market on NDRA today. Can you even imagine making that money on a low float stock before market open? I could imagine. SOBR may set up similar for the pre 7 a.m. squeeze heading into tomorrow, but could very easily get extended and squeeze at 4 a.m. What I've noticed is, and we'll get into this, but we don't know. The timing is one thing. What you could do is you could control your plans, where you plan to enter, where you plan to exit. You can control your analysis, that you're looking at a financially good company, that the intrinsic value makes sense, that they're making money, that's not only are they making money, there's a real service they're providing that could be verified. You do all those things, and then maybe the charts also line up. And then you get in with a plan, and then you execute a plan that manages risk at a low amount that's looking for much more profit than that of where your risk is, so you could afford to lose. And I think like that's, even if it's a 50% profit opportunity or 100% profit opportunity, that's generally, like, even if it's midterm, that's kind of the main approach that you need in order to make sure that you're building profitably and not losing money. So unless you're holding something for a really, really long time, and then in that case, you just continue to buy when it goes down and you don't really care about any of that, then yeah, it makes sense. Rafael is in the house. I see El Coco Loco. We got Intuitive Machines. And Tammy and I are going to the gym soon. Maybe she's not going to the gym. I might be going alone.
Call me when you want me to go. Okay. I'm gonna watch with mom the nature videos.
Oh, cool. All right.
But let me know.
Sounds good. All right. So she's going to a movie with my mom, or her mother-in-law, and so I might be going to the gym on my own here tonight, guys. I usually go with her. It depends. All right. So Lunar, that's what we're getting into. You got the quarterlies. The quarterlies are holding for the most part. You see some positive, as of recently, positive net income, big negative net income in 2024, but a better quarter recently. Net income's up 100%, which isn't huge. It's still 500K, so that's a percentage that doesn't really matter. However, just a beautiful late quarter. This recent quarter they had here, their assets got up to 500 million. Their total liabilities dropped to about 172 million. And it was before this earnings that they had that we were skeptical. And part of the reason why we were so skeptical was because their total liabilities was like even. It wasn't greater, but it was like even with their total assets. And what do we know about companies like that? Well, a good one that I just got off a consulting call with a client recently where they made a mistake. They bought this stock. It's called Wolf. And if you looked at it and this is why we never covered it, their liabilities were like basically exceeding or just at their total assets. So their liabilities are so high that they have basically no margin to operate with any chance of profitability, with negative net income. And so, we don't touch it. As a result, didn't they announced like a bankruptcy, and a lot of people lost a lot of money, and then it starts to recover, which is a natural bounce after a bankruptcy. And people are like, oh, I'm getting in. And I'm like, be careful, because anyway, balance sheet. So the balance sheet on Lunar looks a lot better. We do see them hold below this resistance, kind of push below that 200-day moving average, consolidate from left to right, just not really having any movement. What I think we were last looking at was that recovery when we were looking at their company, Intuitive Machines Inc., this was a stock that was just announced. Who just commented this one? It was Adone. Adone commented it. So they got some real photos, some real stuff. They got science and discovery payloads, data transmission, as well as Atlas devices. Here you can see infrastructure. I think I saw these guys potentially at the recent space conference that I went to in over in Colorado Springs. As far as their investors side of their website, it looks like they got this mission of diversified space company focused on space exploration, which is pretty cool. But I think it was here we got this. They select Intuitive Machines Texas Space Commission for a contract, Earth reentry and microgravity biomanufacturing spacecraft. It was a grant of up to $10 million for the Space Exploration and Research Fund. And then Intuitive Machines began the initial development of the preliminary design for an Earth reentry vehicle capable of supporting missions returning from low Earth orbit, the moon, or Mars. It's kind of like a transfer thing. It looks like they work with NASA as well as DARPA, has enabled establishment of all hardware protocols. So they got some different contracts and things were looking like pretty good. And then actually they really cleaned up their balance sheet recently. I think that was kind of it for 2025. I don't know if there was another one. Okay, there was a launch and then they had another successful launch en route to the moon, and they're doing a lunar mission, so they're focused pretty heavily on the lunar missions. And they did a lander installation when Nokia cellular network ready for moon as Intuitive Machines completes final lunar lander installation. So they're really like they're making it happen. So I think it's cool, and I think it's one we'll follow very closely. And if we see them get up into previous highs, we're talking about 100% increase to 120% increase. Awesome. So another thing we got going here, NASCAR says moves like that are all FOMO and zero fundamentals. I assume you're talking about that something like a manipulation trade there that you guys were talking about, like 6:49 a.m. and then what happens at 6:50 a.m. or something. That's yeah, the timing. Yeah, good luck, man. Good luck. Best of luck to you. And then Chuck Norris, which I don't know, I just pictured like a guy with like sunglasses on, and I just got to be careful what I say. Chuck Norris says the Lunar had a failed launch, and that's what started the tank. So maybe it was back here February. Was that what happened? This tank down here, and then they found support there around $6. They're holding around 10. And what did we see for their market cap? I mean, from a market cap perspective, when we looked at Lunar, it was still at 1.9 billion. So fairly large. Like I would expect that pullback to take place. Like what we saw in that space tech pullback, to see them up in that $5 billion range or whatever they were at, that's pretty high. And a pullback down to there also makes sense. And so they start to clean up their balance sheet, as we see, and things start to maybe look a little promising there. Getting millions in revenue, 500 million in total assets. Yeah, I think like a $2 to $3 billion market cap could make sense, which would put them possibly at a 2x, which would put them up into here around $15, something like that. So yeah, I think it's important if you enter with a trade or anything on the near term, just have a plan, manage risk, because it is still lower cap and it can move pretty fast. Alex says Lunar is a money pit. As investors, how do I get a return? AKA, I call that company gambling. In my opinion, that's what you say. So, I mean, at one point they were a gamble for sure. When we were looking at the financials earlier this year, that's why I didn't cover them much, because before that earnings, they were all negative net income. The balance sheet, like I said, was like Wolf, the one that recently went bankrupt, because they look at that. This right here is orange, their liabilities. On the left is their total assets. Their liabilities and assets were even, which is like not a good sign. It means they're not operating very profitably. But we did see their assets increase in the last quarter from 355 up to that 500 million, and they paid down a bunch of debt and got those total liabilities down to 172 million. So from like a gamble perspective, it actually doesn't look like that as much. You start to see things kind of look a little better there. So they got a lot of employees, 435. They say that that's a measure, I would say, is also a measure of how many employees they have. Of course, with the advent of AI and how many jobs that can replace, or maybe not replace, but yeah, I mean, that number varies, so we do take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, when it comes to 435 employees, starting to see the contracts roll in and those financials improve, I think that they become more legit. That's what I would say. I wouldn't say it's as much of a gamble as it was back in January, especially since back in January it was at an all-time high. It was at like $24, so it was also overvalued at that moment. So that would make sense why you would see it that way. So, but hopefully, take it with respect. But I do think that this right here is something that would make sense. I'm always fascinated. Someone says, I am always fascinated by how little interest traders have looking at tickers that run like 1,000% in a day. Those are the tickers we should deep dive into conversations. By all means, there's 100,000 YouTubers that will cover those stocks. If you want to go find them, I'm sure you can find them. I think all you have to search is 1000x on YouTube, or like 100x, or buy this now, something like that. You'll see all the videos. I'm sure you'll find it. You'll find it for sure. But yeah, here I focus on intrinsically valuable companies that even if I'm trading for 5 minutes, I would potentially buy them for 5 years. It's just the way that we trade and invest, and we just keep it all congruent, especially in a world where a lot of people's short-term positions turn into long-term positions because they might not know how to manage risk or something like that. And last thing you want is a short-term position that you plan on making a bunch of money, that you put maybe allocated too much of your account into, turn into a long-term position when originally you wanted a short-term position. And then what happens? Now you're holding a long-term position in a stock that isn't even intrinsically valuable. That's a really tough position to be in. And I would never want anybody to be in that position, as it's just not the focus. So I'm not saying get lost by any means. I have no desire to change your opinion. I'm just telling you the perspective. All right, so when it comes down to the other one, so we had a couple here. We had Big Bear AI was the other one. Nice move in BBAI. Same gentleman says 100% move in a week. All right, so let's take a look there. Let's take a look at what that looks like. It looks like he's quoted another one there that made 700%. When it comes down to AI and LLM, they're one of the main players. We covered them, pretty extensively back here since about October. Seen them run up to that $10.50 price point. We got a $2.80 average on the stock, and we've seen them recently surge, finding a bottom at 236, making a recovery up into these levels at about $5 a share before breaking out, revalidating and retesting, and then finding some trends up here into these levels. And a hyper bull trend kicked in. It was every single previous resistance was acting as a support. It was validating that that's a 3-month swing. So this breakout started basically mid-June. Over the last 2 weeks, we've seen it hyper bull trend, and then start of July, hyper bull trend, and then yesterday hit a high. Not even yesterday, today, this morning at market open, we were actually live this morning taking a look at it. It hit $8.72 before selling back down. Has it broken pattern? Not really. I mean, maybe dragged out a little bit from that super hyper bull trend and kind of dragged out. The next support levels to watch are definitely right here. It's possible it holds above that 750, but otherwise that previous resistance down here at about $7.20 would be the next level for it to find support. Why is that? Well, they are starting to, their market cap's growing for sure, and they're starting to get up there. And what happens when they get up there, if hedge funds or institutions want to sell, what do they normally do? A lot of times what they'll do is they'll drive price up before they sell. Why is that? I got a message or two from people and they said, Will, I bought Big Bear today at $8.70. And I'm like, oof, all right, man, you're up there. They're like, it's a long-term hold. And I'm like, all right, man, first of all, you gotta have that plan. If it's long, it doesn't matter. You're good. Even if it's short, it doesn't matter. Just have a plan. And so then you have that sell-off kick in. It's sold down. It's still bullish potentially, holding above the 200-day moving average. And why did institutions maybe want to sell? Well, we know that the holders include some of the biggest players in the world. You got number one there, I think was it AE Industrials, or maybe they were one of them. You got Vanguard and BlackRock holding the most shares there of BBAI. And I was thinking AE Industrials were there. I don't know if maybe that changed. Increased positions, a lot of increased positions. The institutions are definitely getting into it. And we've seen it grow in market cap by what, 1.5 billion? And then someone says, no, Johnny says, no, please keep talking about good companies only, please, LOL. Man, that's funny. I don't think he said please, but that's hilarious. Um, Someone says, NASCAR, what's your interest in pump and dumps, man? And then he says that I'm saving you. I'm saving you, bro. You don't need the pump and dumps, man. You don't need them. You don't need another pump and dump, bro. That's so funny. I love the talk there, the bro talk. Aaron says, hey, tariffs spooked the markets a bit. I believe there will be updates in August. Expect volatility. You nailed it, Aaron. I think that's definitely, exactly where we're coming from there. What we're looking at, and maybe I need to reevaluate this AI holder, because I was looking at the wrong report on NASDAQ. It is AE Industrials Partners that holds the most shares. I was looking at Rocket Lab, my bad. AE Industrials holds the most. You got BlackRock, Vanguard, a lot more increased positions than decreased. But why is there the hype? What's going into Big Bear? Because when we were covering at $2, we are still bullish. Right now, I think long term we could still be bullish. What's the near term potential sell off that we could definitely see kick in? Yes, there's the market. Yeah, we could see some more defense contracts. It was the triggering really of seeing the deployment, the real market volatility that we saw. The real market usage of their actual technology at the major airports and different ports of entry. That's what sparked the conversation. And so what happens is people go through this thing and they're like, oh, so Big Bear has this biometric scanning. And they're like, oh, that's a lot of data. And they say, oh, if that's a lot of data, what airports are that? Oh, they're expanding into all these airports internationally. Oh, what big events do we have? Oh, we have the World Cup coming up. We got the Olympics coming up. Oh, how are they getting these contracts? And they go over and they're like, who's the new CEO? Kevin McAleenan, acting secretary previously, U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Oh, he was the commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection. It makes sense that he's able to move this technology into some of those parts of the travel and trade, the borders, the defense industry, and that they're most likely going to continue to build on some of those contracts that they got with Department of Defense, the Pentagon. Um, they got like $160 million Army contract, which is sustaining some revenue for them. And even mentioning in their last earnings that we talk about this, but it's true. What did they mention? They said we're expecting that in the next in this earnings there was some profits or some capital that didn't make its way onto the balance sheet that we are expecting from some partners, and it didn't make it. And what does that mean? So their revenue dipped just a tad bit, about 9 million, 8 million, but their balance sheet got better. They cut down debt. And if they come in with some good earnings, seeing that $5 to $10 range sustain is quite possible. So that's kind of what we're looking at in the medium term here. So seeing the sell-off, getting it back down to there, we're gonna watch closely. And let's see. And then you got Masler says, what does Masler say? He says you'll love meme coins on Solana then. Man, that's funny. Don't put anybody onto meme coins on Solana. I literally have done meme coins on Solana, and the way that I'll do them, how we do them is my wife and I, we have money that whenever we make money, we put it into different accounts, right? I even got a jar here, reminded me from a couple years ago. That's the long-term jar that we would put money in. Now we got accounts, we got to automate it. I got the finance guy and stuff, but and the finance guy is all automated. It's all automated. I use a automated software into the accounts. And you know what we do is we have play accounts for just the play. You want to go out to the restaurant, you go out to the restaurant. You want to go have fun with your friends, you could do it. You want to buy the nice designer, you could do it. The car, the nice clothes, whatever you want, sure. It's not necessities, it's just for discretionary spending, whatever you want to spend on. No guilt, whatever you want. Whatever you want. And you don't have to think about it. And you know what I did with my play money? I went and I bought some Solana meme coins. And I totally did not do well. Not gonna do that again. Anyway. Oh geez. All right, so Sandesh says, can you do a SoundHound AI? Yeah, let's wrap it up there. We did a deep dive on Black Sky. We got to jump into Lunar. We did BBAI. Another one we did yesterday that was really good was Redwire. Chuck says, doing great, Will, on CTM. Yep, CTM was one that was on its way today. We got some long-term holds with CTM, and we've been covering it for a while there. I think CTM, what was it doing today? Did it make it up into 120? It did. All right. So CTM, we've been watching this move for a while, this dollar share move, looking for this swing up into this $1.31. It looks like we already got about 24%, or not 24%, but 15 or 16% in the last few days on CTM. So that's excellent. That's just the conservative trend. If we're looking at that other swing potential, we're talking about like 50 to 90%. And the reason we cover it too, and thanks Chuck for pointing it out. I know we talk about it inside of StockMate a lot. Sometimes I forget though to cover it here. But revenue has been holding really well. They got some good contracts, and their balance sheet has been very disciplined. The blue being higher than the orange means that they have more assets than their liabilities. Not only that, they're increasing quarter over quarter, and their liabilities are actually decreasing. So really good stuff. Yeah, Chuck, I'm glad you're doing well there on CTM. That's awesome, man. So yeah, we'll continue to cover that one. And then I wanted to do a quick analysis there on SoundHound AI. We were looking for a swing. We've been watching this thing make its trend. So originally we were watching it to make it up to $12. It made that swing. It's about a 26% swing. Then we're looking at it potentially. And do you guys ever like take a moment and you look at the AI markets and you say, wow, the AI markets are booming right now. I really do believe we're in a golden age. And then you see this surge up to $13.50 today. The next support level is this previous support here at about $12.50. And it's also a resistance level that it could sell down to. So it's a previous resistance and support. And Chuck says, sipping on a protein shake, Will? Heck yeah. Yeah, man. Protein shake? Let's go. Got to keep the gains. We'd be burning calories, man. Burning calories, not cash. That's a funny one. All right, so, well, maybe it's funny. I don't know. Here's what we got. You guys have seen SoundHound make that move before. It's gotten up into that, $25 range. It's now broken up into these levels. Previous resistance and support levels at about $12.50. Why is SoundHound making the moves that it's making? Any ideas? It's really just coming down to their new partnerships. They have this AI technology that is building out infrastructure for some of the top restaurants in the world. You got AI agents. You got banks they're working with. You got Hyundai, so in car. One of the interesting contracts I heard the other day was with a company for like police in the car, AI talking to the police officers, telling them what's going on outside or whatever. Chipotle, you got Pandora, White Castle, they got that partnership with Nvidia, and these are leading brands that choose SoundHound. And what we've seen is it's so early stage that you don't always have the full look. And when we look at the financials, so the contracts, the partnerships, simply put, you guys have heard the AI voices, right? That call you or whatever, or that you hear at the drive-through or wherever. They're getting really good. SoundHound's one of the companies. Vanguard's got 10% of SoundHound, according to Sandesh. Thanks. We'll have to take a look at that. Why don't I just verify it right now? Let's see. What is it? Sound. SOUN. I knew that. All right. Let's see. So pulled it up. We got it here. Let's get some. That's weird. Trying to get a better look here. How do we? Oh, there we go. Okay, I was looking for that button. Institutional holdings. There you go. Sandesh was on the money. You got 3 million shares from Vanguard, BlackRock. There. All Out says AI is taking my Taco Bell order. Let's go, man. I used to get Taco Bell for free back in the day when I worked at a bank and I didn't have any money. And if you sign up, it still works. The glitch still works. I don't ever eat Taco Bell now. It's not healthy, but you could go on the app with a new email and then they'll give you a free burrito. And I would go and I'd create emails and use an app that lets you create emails that you can dispose of. And I would just that's how I basically would eat when I was broke or didn't want to spend money. I realized that I felt like crap though. So I just stopped doing it and just, pre-made lunches. Back in the day, man. All right, revenue. So you got revenue, 29 million in revenue. Net income finally surged positive, 129 million. Balance sheet cleaned up in their last quarter. So you could see their total assets surged to 587. Liabilities dropped down to 190. It cleaned up. They cleaned up their balance sheet because it was kind of not so pretty in December, and their net income big negative in December, and they managed to clean it up there. So, coming up on the next quarter, net income's up 400% year over year. I know that's a little maybe freak because they did get that big deal there. I don't know if that's going to happen next quarter, but revenue's up 150% year over year, and that is actually real. 150% year over year increase in revenue. And so they just broke out of this $12.50 range, 23% if they're going to target up to this $15 range. And then previous highs would be a 95% increase. So we could see market corrections beforehand, and that's fine. I think it would be possible that happens. But there's a strong support there at 1250. So if that continues to hold, I think in the plans, that could make a lot of sense for SoundHound, and we potentially will trade it here as we close out potentially this end of this week. We'll see how it plays out if it holds this level. So guys, really good stuff. I see some great comments. Alex says that's what I need to practice, is holding longer and making sure that I have more of a plan for sure. Yeah, Alex, that sounds good, man. So guys, I appreciate you all. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you want to join us in our daily live trading session, it's tomorrow morning. It's the second link in the description if you want to join us in Stockmate. One thing to note about Stockmate is we have earnings each week for the different companies, their targets, along with when they are reporting, Monday, pre-market or after hours. They've been a little quiet this last week, but again, we do have that. And right now you can get lifetime access inside of Stockmate, get some insights from some good members, and also just kind of, see what it's like. There's some really interesting comments recently. Like I've seen some really good ones from some members. And if you ever want some insights along with the daily live trading happening Monday through Friday, you could still get it for lifetime access with our current sale, which is closing soon. It's the second link in the description, and I would love to send you a free t-shirt. So I would love to see you there tomorrow morning if you want to join us. Thanks so much for tuning in. Again, guys, if I earned your thumbs up, smash the like button. And Christian says, what AI stocks will bust? I am really looking forward to covering some hot stocks that most likely will bust. That sounds like a great idea. I was thinking of that actually the other day. We should do a series. Nevertheless, do consider subscribing. Thanks so much, guys. I'll see you in the